Hi, I just want to introduce you to the first part of parent-child interaction therapy, which is our child-directed interaction. So this video is just designed to be a bit of a reminder for anything that you missed in session. So as you probably remember, PCIT has the two treatment phases. The first one's child-directed interaction, and the second one is parent-directed interaction. So we're only focusing on child-directed interaction in this video. So in the CDI, or child-directed interaction, we're going to teach you the play therapy skills that you're going to use to focus on your child's difficulties and help them to be able to calm down, improve their attention, their focus, help them learn to cooperate, and just really strengthen the bond that you guys already have. So in the second section, the PDI, the parent-directed interaction, you're going to learn really specific discipline techniques that will teach your child to obey your directions and decrease behaviours that bother others. Each of the two sections should take about 5 to 6 weeks, depending on how you guys go. The exact time does depend on you guys attending the sessions regularly and practicing at home. So for each of the ongoing coaching sessions, the first 5 minutes, I'm just going to be watching you guys and coding your skills that we're going to talk about today. And then we're going to, depending on where I'm seeing you, I'm either going to talk to you through like one of these little things in your ear, or I'll be sitting in the room with you and just coaching you through using the skills. So just continue improving you. And each time the homework will focus on the difficulties that you're having and really getting those skills really, really solid. For this to be effective, it is really important that you come to every appointment. If you can't, because I do understand kids are sick, please let me know. There is a bit of flexibility around telehealth. So if you've got another kid at home sick, instead of not doing the session at all, there is the possibility, like we could do the session with you guys just at home through video. It's kind of like this. So the CDI is all about teaching you the play therapy skills to build the relationship with your child. Ultimately, you're the parent, you're the one with your child all the time, and you're the one that we want to build up the relationship with them, not me. we don't want you to be coming and seeing me forever. So the reason why we start with a CDI first is because it teaches your child to become calmer and enjoy the special CDI time. And by enjoying that time, it actually will make it easier for them to accept their limits and the discipline. Most of the skills you'll learn are necessary for the discipline to be effective. And we want the skills to be automatic so that when we move into the second bit, you're not trying to remember 2 new things at the same time, especially when we're dealing with difficult behaviours. So the most basic rule in play therapy is to follow your child's lead. So this is all about setting up a situation where your child is in charge and then building in some special skills that are particularly therapeutic. So it's not just about playing, but it's about therapy. So the specific skills, there's going to be a set of skills that I want you to avoid saying during the special time and skills that I want you to use. So to start with, we're going to start with the skills to avoid. So there are 3 don't skills. So the first one is to avoid giving commands. So commands can come in 2 types. They can either be direct commands or indirect commands. Direct commands are very specific. Hand me the car, sit down here, use your nice words. They're very specific. The child knows exactly what they're meant to do and they are the one that's meant to do it. Indirect commands are a bit more wishy-washy. So they're the things like, oh, do you want to play? Or let's put these cars away. Kind of, it doesn't imply that the child must do it. And there's kind of that, oh, maybe I do it or maybe you do it idea. Both kind of commands intrude and they actually take over the play because they start putting you back in the lead as the parent rather than the child leading. It also means if the child doesn't obey a command, you generally go into discipline mode. And we want CDI to be just a fun 5 minutes every day for you and your child. So if you've then got to move into disciplining is not fun for anybody. So it's kind of taking that bit away. The second bit is to avoid asking questions, and this is the bit I find the hardest for most parents, is because it's expecting an answer from your child. So it might be asking for specific information, who, what, when, where, how. In Australia in particular, we ask very unintentional questions where at the end of our sentence, our voice will rise. And it's kind of just are we going to the park today? And it's just kind of that bit of hesitation that, well, maybe we are or maybe we're not. Sometimes 2 questions can be hidden commands. Would you like to sit down? Would you like to clean up? It's a question, but it's actually implying that the child should do something. The reason why we don't do questions is because it actually takes over from the play, and it takes over the conversation. So you actually then turn around to being in charge, and it puts the child in a bit of, they've kind of got to answer, and sometimes they can feel like it's disapproval of, why did you put that there? And kids thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I did the wrong thing. It can also suggest that you're not listening to your child, because sometimes in our attempt to expand for information, we're asking questions that aren't following the child's lead. So the kid's talking about a topic and then all of a sudden we ask something outside of that. So instead of talking about the play animals, we're talking about what did you do at school today? And so it's really putting you back in the lead. The third thing, which is something that most of us don't tend to do, we're pretty aware of this, is avoiding criticism. So anything sort of negative or contradictory, you're not being nice, you don't do it that way. Even correcting, it's pointing out mistakes. Oh, do it this way, not that way. It's telling them what not to do. All that stuff lowers a kid's self-esteem, and it makes it not fun. Like, no kid wants to not feel good about themselves. Now, the really important thing with these 3 don't skills is that it is only for the 5-minute special play. There are times where we have to do those things. There's times where we have to ask questions. There's times where we have to give commands. This is just for the 5 minutes of special time a day. Okay. So that's the don'ts. The next section is our do skills. So our do skills are the ones that in particular you want to do the whole way through your CDI playtime. So we call them the pride skills to help you remember them, because that's what it spells. So P is for praise. So it's giving your child labelled praises for positive behaviours. So it's very specific stuff. So it's complimenting them. Hey, you did a great job. So labelled praises are specific. So instead of just saying great job, it's great job for picking up the toys, or, oh, you built that so quietly. That's fantastic. Unlabelled praise is the much more non-specific. Oh, good, great job, nice work, I like that. It's general. It's skill good. It's not as effective as the labelled praise. The labelled praise tells your child exactly what they did to get that praise. What it also does is it increases the behaviour that you're describing. So if you're saying great job for listening, kids go, oh, I have to listen more. It also improves their self-esteem, because they're going, hey, I'm doing the stuff right. And it makes you both feel good. Like when you're pointing out your kids' good bits, it's reminding you of all that good stuff too. It's just a really nice way of making you both feel better. So that's the P. R is for reflect. So reflect is reflecting their appropriate talk. So obviously if they're being silly, we're not reflecting that stuff, but anything that is appropriate. So, I have a blue crayon. And so you would say, you've got a blue crayon. You don't have to say it exactly. You're saying it still grammatically correct. But those reflections, it's a skill that we get taught as counsellors. that's actually what teaches your child that you're listening, because if you can say what they've said, even if it's a paraphrase, they're going, hey, mum or dad listened. They got me. It helps you to listen to, because you've got to actually pay attention to what they're saying to be able to reflect it. And it's accepting what they're saying, because kids know you're not going to say something that is inappropriate. It helps their speech. So it's really good, like if you've got a child with a speech delay, to be able to say it back, because if they're saying things not quite right, you're correcting it without criticising, but they're hearing it. So for example, one of my kids has difficulty saying the all sound. So he might say, I'm not going to be able to find one now. I love you. And I would say, oh, I love you. So he's hearing it. It's not a correction. It feels really awkward at first. It really does. But the more that you do it, it becomes natural. The only time where you wouldn't really do this is if a child asks you a question, answer it. They much more appreciate the answer than just trying to reflect it back, because then they just go, well, what's the answer, Mum? I, so that's the P and the R. The I is for imitate. So you're imitating their play. So it's you're focusing on what the child's doing, and you're doing it too. You're following their lead. You're keeping it about a step down. So if you're doing something like drawing, don't try and outdraw them, because you actually want the child to feel like, hey, I'm doing a great job. Like, or if you're building a tower and theirs is this tall, make them this tall. You want it to be fun, and it's showing that you approve of their play, and it's helping you to play at their level. Like when we're doing this, we actually have to bring ourselves down to a child's level. We're not trying to push them up to our level. And all this helps them to learn to take turns. So like if they're pushing the red car and you're pushing the car, you're taking it in turns. They're learning really important social skills. So the P-R-I, D is for describing. So you want to describe all the positive things that your child's doing. So you can describe what they're doing in the play, or you can describe their behaviours. So they're called a behaviour description. So if they're drawing a big yellow sun, oh, you're drawing a big yellow sun. It's kind of like a running commentary. So what it does is it lets the child lead the play. It helps you to follow along with what they're doing. It also helps them to build upon what they're doing, because it's nearly scaffolding it on the outside for them. So like if they're drawing a house and you say, oh, you're drawing a house, and then they go, oh, and then I can draw this, and it helps them to build up. It's a really good chance to model vocabulary and concepts, because you can use stuff that they may not even know. You drew depending on how old your child is, you drew a rectangular prism. And they go, oh, wow, did I? So they'll learn, or maybe just a rectangle, depending on how old your child is. And it keeps their attention on the play, and it increases their attention span enormously. Like even, like I've watched kids even with ADHD. So ADHD typically, not good attention spans. But by doing this, they can hold it there longer, because you're sitting with them, helping them maintain the attention. So far we've got P, which is for praise, R, which is for reflect, I for imitate, D for describe, and the E is just for enjoy, have fun. It's showing your child that you enjoy it and you have fun and you're a little bit silly, and you're telling your child that you're enjoying it. That's the bit that makes it fun and builds the warmth for both of you. So that basically the 3 don't skills and 5 do skills is what we want to make up our CDI time. Now, some people might be thinking, yep, they may enjoy it and they may behave pretty well. And generally kids do, because kids ultimately just want to play with their parents. Sometimes they do misbehave, so we do have to have some strategies around managing that. So as long as behaviours aren't destructive or aggressive, so for the attention-seeking ones, so they're yelling and they're back-talking, whining, they're crying, they're just the annoying stuff that gets on our nerves. the best way to actually deal with it is to just ignore it. So a lot of a lot of this comes about, and a lot of the kids that I see that we're doing this with, it's because they're attention seeking and they don't quite know how to do it in a positive manner. So basically whatever they're used to doing and whatever gets a response, that's what they continue doing. So if they stop getting a response for this annoying stuff, they learn really quickly that, hang on, I'm not actually getting what I want. And because they're doing the other positive stuff in CDI, they're learning, well, hang on, if I'm doing all this stuff, Mum giving me lots of attention, it's great. But then all of a sudden I do something not quite right and Mum's away. Really important to not think of this as getting away with misbehaviours. It's taking away the attention, and that's the ultimate goal of these annoying behaviours. I say annoying because annoying kids do them too. So when you're annoying, it's stopping and being really neutral in yourself. It's nearly robotic because you don't want to do any verbal or non-verbal, so facial expressions in particular, looking at the child, smiling, frowning, even mentioning it. It's just completely ignoring it. If you've got a child who has been engaging in these behaviours for a while, it will get worse before it gets better. Sorry. So pick the behaviours and only ignore the ones that you know you can keep doing it even when it increases. So if you know that there's a point where you can't deal with the yelling and you will react, that's probably not the one to pick. But if you know that, okay, the whining, I can stick that one out no matter how bad it gets, do it. Because the more you can do it, the better you will get through it. If you give in after you start ignoring it, actually teaches them that that's the point they get to, and they will get what they want. So you really need to keep doing it. You need to keep ignoring it until the behaviours stop. As soon as it stops and they're re-engaging in something much more positive, so like if they've been being silly and whining and whatever, and they stop whining and they start playing again, immediately praise it. Hey, you know what, you're playing so well there. And the kid automatically goes, oh, okay, I do the right thing, I get the praise. Consistently ignoring these things eliminates most of the attention-seeking behaviours when you combine it with the positive attention. So it's really, really important. It's hard to do in real life. If you can't do it in real life, like think really carefully in real life in particular, if you can't maintain it, because you need to be able to do it every single time. So outside of special time, if you decide to use it, make sure it's something that you can do every time. If you can do that, it will help bring those behaviours down enormously. So that's the ignoring, that's the attention seeking. Now, if they happen to become aggressive or destructive, we don't ignore that. Nobody can get hurt and things shouldn't get broken. So if it happens at home, what I want you to do is you stand up and you go, special time is stopping because you hit me, you broke that, whatever you did, because you want to be very clear. And it teaches your child that they must behave if they want the special time, even though it's not a reward, but if they want to continue with their special time, that behaviour is not on. And it teaches your child these are the limits. So hitting me is a non-negotiable. So you hit me, special time stops. So that's kind of the basics for how the sessions run. Some of the things, so when you're setting up for special time at home, you need to think really clearly about a space that can be quiet without too many distractions. So sometimes I've had parents will do it in the bedrooms because it's away from the TV, or if they've got a room and they can kind of set up the other kids, or the other partner can have the kids for two-parent families, and they can just focus on that one child. And what the idea is that you set up the space with 2 or 3 different options. So you're picking the toys initially. So you want to pick toys that are creative. You don't want to have to worry about breaking rules. So things like the construction sets, or the alphabet blocks, or Legos, or play sets. So it might be like a kitchen set or farm set. Anything creative, so things like crayons and paper and just stuff that lets the kids' imaginations flourish. What you don't want is anything that encourages any sort of rough or aggressive play. So things like often superheroes and balls and bats or anything messy, unless you're particularly calm around messy stuff. I wouldn't recommend it because what you don't want is anything that can potentially trigger a behaviour problem. So like for me, I'm not a fan of paints, particularly with my own kids. I know I should, but I'm not. I don't like the mess. I don't like having to clean it up. I know if I pulled out the paints for this, 5 times out of 10 it might be okay, but the other 5 times it's going to end badly. I'm just not going to do it. I want this to be a fun time. You also don't want anything that has set rules, because what do you do then if the child doesn't follow the rules? It gets very messy. This is not a space for iPads or books because there's not the interaction. You really want to have it creative and a chance for you to have that conversation and talking, and have it in a space that for that 5 minutes, it can be just the two of you. At the end of the special time, so the idea is the special time is 5 minutes every day, regardless of what else has been happening. It's just that 5 minutes. When you're coming to the end of the 5 minutes, you're going to let your child know that, okay, special time's ending now, and leave it up to them whether or not they clean up the toys or whether you clean up the toys. It's not an argument. So if cleaning up is something your child typically doesn't do well, you can either leave them to play or you just tidy it up, even if in other times you're trying to get your child to clean up, because you don't want this time ending in an argument. If your child decides to help, and I have had kids who are actually really good at cleaning up, praise them for it. Wow, you're doing some great packing up. Thank you so much for helping mum, da, 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 da. Now, there is a reason why we only do 5 minutes. So 5 minutes of the special time is long enough to have a therapeutic effect for a child. It's long enough for you to learn the skills without becoming overwhelmed. It's short enough not to be too time consuming. And it's short enough that you won't become frustrated. Like when you're trying to remember all these skills and all these different things, it takes a lot of concentration. It is actually quite a bit of effort. So 5 minutes is enough. And it's really important to think of the time as therapy. So this is not a reward. This is not something you only do if your child's like doing good things. This is stuff for you to practice your play therapy skills and for your child to have an actual therapy time. Really, really important. Ideally, if there's 2 of you, ideally both of you. If there's 2 of you, ideally if both of you can have that time, that 5 minutes with your child. Obviously failing that, at least one of you to have 5 minutes a day. It does the PCIT as a whole will work better where there's 2 parents involved for both of you to do it. Obviously there's stuff that we can, in our sessions, in our actual sessions, we can brainstorm ideas if that's not going to work, or for kids who have to go between houses and that sort of stuff. So I want you to have a think about when and where you could do it. If you've got any questions, you know where to find me. Otherwise, good luck.